Hello everyone, and welcome back to Nature Explorer. If you love nature, adventure, and timeless stories, you're in the right place. On this channel, we explore some of the world's greatest books about nature, travel, and wildlife, one chapter at a time. So, sit back, relax, and let your imagination wander into the beauty of the natural world. Now, let's continue our journey with today's reading. Nelson's Guide to the Central Pacific Railroad. This morning, Truckee wore a totally different aspect. The crowds of the night before had disappeared. There were heaps of ashes where the fires had been. A sleepy German waiter seemed the only person about the premises. The open drinking saloons were nearly empty, and only a few sleepy-looking loafers hung about in what is called the street. It might have been Sunday, but they say that it brings a great accession of throng and jollity. Public worship has died out at present. Work is discontinued on Sunday, but the day is given up to pleasure. Putting a minimum of indispensables into a bag and slipping on my Hawaiian riding dress 3 over a silk skirt and a dust cloak overall, I stealthily crossed the plaza to the livery stable, the largest building in Truckee, where 12 fine horses were stabled in stalls on each side of a broad drive. My friend of the evening before showed me his rig, 3 velvet-covered side saddles almost without horns. Some ladies, he said, used the horn of the Mexican saddle, but none in the part rode cavalier fashion. I felt abashed. I could not ride any distance in the conventional mode, and was just going to give up this splendid ravage, when the man said, "Ride your own fashion. Here at Truckee, if anywhere in the world, people can do as they like." Blissful Truckee. In no time, a large gray horse was rigged out in a handsome silver-bossed Mexican saddle, with ornamental leather tassels hanging from the stirrup guards and a housing of black bear skin. I strapped my silk skirt on the saddle, deposited my cloak in the corn bin, and was safely on the horse's back before his owner had time to devise any way of mounting me. Neither he nor any of the loafers who had assembled showed the slightest sign of astonishment, but all were as respectful as possible. 3. For the benefit of other lady travelers, I wish to explain that my Hawaiian riding dress is the American lady's mountain dress, a half-fitting jacket, a skirt reaching to the ankles, and full Turkish trousers gathered into frills falling over the boots, a thoroughly serviceable and feminine costume for mountaineering and other rough traveling, as in the Alps or any other part of the world. Once on horseback, my embarrassment disappeared, and I rode through Truckee, whose irregular, steep-roofed houses and shanties, set down in a clearing and surrounded closely by mountain and forest, looked like a temporary encampment, passed under the Pacific Railroad, and then for 12 miles followed the windings of the Truckee River, a clear, rushing, mountain stream, in which immense pine logs had gone aground not to be floated off till the next freshet, a loud-tongued, rollicking stream of ice-cold water, on whose banks no ferns or trailers hang, and which leaves no greenness along its turbulent progress. All was bright with that brilliancy of sky and atmosphere, that blaze of sunshine and universal glitter, which I never saw till I came to California, combined with an elasticity in the air which removed all lassitude, and gives one spirit enough for anything. On either side of the Truckee Great Sierras rose like walls, castellated, embattled, rifted, skirted and crowned with pines of enormous size, the walls now and then breaking apart to show some snow-slashed peak rising into a heaven of intense, unclouded, sunny blue. At this altitude of 6,000 feet, one must learn to be content with varieties of conifery, for, except for aspens, which spring up in some places where the pines have been cleared away, and for cottonwoods, which at a lower level fringe the streams, there is nothing but the bare cherry, the raspberry, the gooseberry, the wild grape, and the wild currant. None of these grew near the Truckee, but I feasted my eyes on pines for which, though not so large as the Wellingtonia of the Yosemite, are really gigantic, attaining a height of 250 feet, their huge stems, the warm red of cedar wood, rising straight and branchless for a third of their height, their diameter from 7 to 15 feet, their shape that of a larch, but with the needles long and dark and cones a foot long. Pines cleft the sky. They were massed wherever level ground occurred. They stood over the Truckee at right angles, or lay across it in prostrate grandeur. Their stumps and carcasses were everywhere, and smooth chutes on the sierras marked where they were shot down as felled timber to be floated off by the river. To them, this wild region owes its scattered population, and the sharp ring of the lumber's axe mingles with the cries of wild beasts and the roar of mountain torrents. 4. Pinus Lambertina. The track is a soft, natural wagon road, very pleasant to ride on. The horse was much too big for me and had plans of his own, but now and then, where the ground admitted to it, I tried his heavy lope with much amusement. I met nobody, and passed nothing on the road but a freight wagon, drawn by 22 oxen, guided by 3 fine-looking men, who had some difficulty in making room for me to pass their awkward convoy. After I had ridden about 10 miles the road, went up a steep hill in the forest, turned abruptly, and through the blue gloom of the great pines which rose from the ravine in which the river was then hid, came glimpses of 2 mountains, about 11,000 feet in height, whose bald gray summits were crowned with pure snow. It was one of those glorious surprises in scenery which make one feel as if one must bow down and worship. The forest was thick and had an undergrowth of dwarf spruce and brambles, but as the horse had become fidgety and scary on the track, I turned off in the idea of taking a short cut and was sitting carelessly, shortening my stirrup, when a great, dark, hairy beast rose, crashing and snorting, out of the tangle just in front of me. I had only a glimpse of him, and thought that my imagination had magnified a wild boar, but it was a bear. The horse snorted and plunged violently, as if he would go down to the river, and then turned, still plunging, up a steep bank, when, finding that I must come off, I threw myself off on the right side, where the ground rose considerably, so that I had not far to fall. I got up covered with dust, but neither shaken nor bruised. It was truly grotesque and humiliating. The bear ran in one direction, and the horse in another. I hurried after the latter, and twice he stopped till I was close to him, then turned round and cantered away. After walking about a mile in deep dust, I picked up first the saddle blanket and next my bag, and soon came upon the horse, standing facing me and shaking all over. I thought I should catch him then, but when I went up to him he turned round, threw up his heels several times, rushed off the track, galloped in circles, bucking, kicking, and plunging for some time, and then throwing up his heels as an act of final defiance, went off at full speed in the direction of Truckee, with the saddle over his shoulders and the great wooden stirrups thumping his sides, while I trudged ignominiously along in the dust, laboriously carrying the bag and saddle blanket. I walked for nearly an hour, heated and hungry, when to my joy I saw the ox team halted across the top of a gorge, and one of the teamsters leading the horse towards me. The young man said that, seeing the horse coming, they had drawn the team across the road to stop him, and remembering that he had passed them with a lady on him, they feared that there had been an accident, and had just saddled one of their own horses to go in search of me. He brought me some water to wash the dust from my face, and resaddled the horse, but the animal snorted and plunged for some time before he would let me mount, and then sidled along in such a nervous and scared way that the teamster walked for some distance by me to see that I was all right. He said that the woods in the neighborhood of Tahoe had been full of brown and grizzly bears for some days, but that no one was in any danger from them. I took a long gallop beyond the scene of my tumble to quiet the horse, who was most restless and troublesome. Then the scenery became truly magnificent and bright with life. Crested blue jays darted through the dark pines, squirrels in hundreds scampered through the forest, red dragonflies flashed like living light, exquisite chipmunks ran across the track, but only a dusty blue lupin here and there reminded me of Earth's fairer children. Then the river became broad and still, and mirrored in its transparent depths regal pines, straight as an arrow, with rich yellow and green lichen clinging to their stems, and firs and balsam pines filling up the spaces between them. The gorge opened, and this mountain-girdled lake lay before me, with its margin broken up into bays and promontories, most picturesquely clothed by huge sugar pines. It lay dimpling and scintillating beneath the noonday sun, as entirely unspoilt as 15 years ago, when its pure loveliness was known only to trappers and Indians. One man lives on it the whole year round. Otherwise, early October strips its shores of their few inhabitants, and thereafter, for 7 months, it is rarely accessible except on snowshoes. It never freezes. In the dense forests which bound it, and drape 2/3 of its gaunt sierras, are hordes of grizzlies, brown bears, wolves, elk, deer, chipmunks, martens, minks, skunks, foxes, squirrels, and snakes. On its margin I found an irregular wooden inn, with a lumber wagon at the door, on which was the carcass of a large grizzly bear, shot behind the house this morning. I had intended to ride 10 miles farther, but, finding that the trail in some places was a blind one, and being bewitched by the beauty and serenity of Tahoe, I have remained here sketching, reveling in the view from the veranda, and strolling in the forest. At this height there is frost every night of the year, and my fingers are benumbed. The beauty is entrancing. The sinking sun is out of sight behind the western Sierras, and all the pine-hung promontories on this side of the water are rich indigo, just reddened with lake, deepening here and there into Tyrian purple. The peaks above, which still catch the sun, are bright rose-red, and all the mountains on the other side are pink, and pink, too, are the far-off summits on which the snowdrifts rest. Indigo, red, and orange tints stain the still water, which lies solemn and dark against the shore, under the shadow of stately pines. An hour later, and a moon nearly full, not a pale, flat disk, but a radiant sphere, has wheeled up into the flushed sky. The sunset has passed through every stage of beauty, through every glory of color, through riot and triumph, through pathos and tenderness, into a long, dreamy, painless rest, succeeded by the profound solemnity of the moonlight, and a stillness broken only by the night cries of beasts in the aromatic forests.